My name is George Files. I'm Managing Director of Qualitas Training and Consultancy Limited. As you would imagine, I'm an accountant, but please don't hold that against me. That's what my father wanted me to do. I set this business up about 8 years ago and offered one course, Finance for Non-Financial Managers, the basics of finance. And 8 years on, we've now developed a portfolio of courses from the basics of finance right through to advanced finance. And indeed, here are some of the companies that do business directly with Qualitas. As a director, you are ultimately responsible for the financial welfare and the direction of your business. It's no longer acceptable to assume that the financial director has got matters finance in hand. The board of directors is responsible for the strategic direction of the business, the financial reporting of the business, and ultimately the confidence in terms of the stability and the solvency of the business. Do you want to be confident in your understanding of financial statements? Do you want to be able to assess the viability of a capital project in your business? Be able to understand the relationship and indeed the trade-off between cost, price and volume of your products or services? Understand what keeps your financial director awake at night and overall become more financially savvy. This programme has 5 modules: the finance cycle, the key financial statements themselves, module 3, the key business ratios, module 4 will consider costs, prices and budgets, and the final module, module 5, capital investment decisions. Let me give you a little bit more detail on those. The finance cycle, module 1. Here we'll consider how a business glues together financially. We'll understand the relationship between cash and profit and appreciate that cash is not the same as profit and profit is not the same as cash. Understand the difference between capital expenditure or CapEx and operational expenditure, OpEx. Before we even consider the financial statements of a business, you need a backcloth, you need a picture of how the business glues together. This is module 1, the finance cycle. Having now got a backcloth, a picture of how the business is glued together, we can now consider in module 2 the key financial statements of the business, the profit and loss, or the income statement it's called, the balance sheet and the cash flow statements. In this module we'll learn the structure of these statements, how they're all inextricably linked, and how to quite quickly read what this information is actually sort of telling you. What are the key lines of these statements that talk about the business? Then in module 3 we now have a picture, we now understand the structure of the key financial statements. Let's consider the key ratios of the business, the financial indicators, the key performance indicators that tell you how you're performing. We're going to look at ratios that measure and report on the profitability of a business, ratios that report on the liquidity or the solvency of the business, and then we'll look at the world from an investor's perspective. Then we'll start to move internally into the organisation. Module 4 will consider costs, prices and budgets. We'll appreciate the relationship between cost, price and sales volume. We'll model the impact of these changes and usefully describe the impact on the bottom line of changes, incremental changes in cost and their trade-off with volume and price. We'll understand the different methodologies that determine your costs and therefore ultimately your price, and then appreciate the importance of accurate budgeting and the role that forecasting has got to play in your business. The final module, module 5, now looks at capital projects, looks at capital investment decisions. We'll look at the different methods that are used to appraise capital projects. We'll look at the advantages of them. We'll look at the limitations of them and how they fit within the overall business case. Inevitably, throughout the 5 modules, I'll be referring to financial terminology. And there is just a flavour of some of the words that us finance people use to basically intimidate you. There are easier words than some of those, but why would we want to use them? And I'm sure you'll recognise many of these words in your organisation. We also have to be concerned that the words that we use perhaps in Europe aren't necessarily the words that we use in the US. So whereas we might refer to the gearing of a company, in US they refer to the leverage of the company. If we talk about stock or inventory in the US, they think we're talking about shares when we refer to the word stock. We talk about debtors, people that owe you money. In US terms, they talk about accounts receivables. We must be able to make the translation between the US terminology and the UK terminology. And you can download the terminology, the ABC of terminology, from sort of your website. So what are you going to learn in the 5 modules of Finance for Directors? The terminology, the language of finance, be quite conversant in that. The key benchmarks for gauging if your business is profitable enough, and if not, how to actually correct it. See the impact of changes in cost, in volume and price, and their impact on the bottom line of the business. We'll model the business to illustrate this. How to assess if your business is getting stronger or weaker through the key business ratios. Be able to tell a strong balance sheet from a weak one. Understand how a profitable business can fail and a business that's actually losing money can survive. How cash plays such a central role in the future and the survival of a business. And make it easier for others, such as shareholders and lenders, to understand your financial performance. At the end of each of the modules, there'll be multiple choice test questions, and all I'll say before we move on to module 1 is enjoy the programme. I know the word finance and enjoy don't sit that comfortably together for many people, but I'm confident you're going to enjoy the programme. I'm confident you're going to learn lots on Finance for Directors.